Welcome to the next section. It is called Fighting for My Fight, How CF Challenges and Motivates Me. My name's Keith. I know nobody could have guessed that. And I'm an adult with CF myself. I'll be moderating, speaking as well. I'm a speaker as well. But I do want to provide a few things for everybody. Let me get to the comment section to save. So we are recording this. So if you want to rewatch this, it'll be on the CFF YouTube channel, and you'll be notified by email when sessions are available. So don't say anything you don't want us to say. I'm kidding. I don't think that'll happen. Under the stage tab on your right screen, you'll notice a chat for everybody. And if you're in the event tab, it should give you a full event, not just to this section. We will be taking your questions. Just post them into the comments section. Me and a couple people in the background are watching that, and we will probably copy and paste them if we want to keep them. It's just one other thing that's very big importance. I cannot guarantee we're going to get to your questions. Your questions may not have time for it. It might have been answered by another one. And of course, this is on our opinions, so hate me if you want. Up to you. Also, I'm not a doctor. No one here's a doctor. Unlike last session, we cannot give medical advice. So don't take anything we say as actual medical. So yeah, that's basically about that. If you have any technological issues, please visit the expo booth area. And okay, that's pretty much all the rules I'm gonna say. So my name is Keith. I signed up to be the CF FamilyCon, one of the organizers. I still don't know why. And I ended up on this server because I felt like it responded to me. So I was born and no one knew about my CF. It was really just, I was kind of normal for the most part. Well, normal anyway. And, I came in like 11 years old. The BMI just dropped from 50% to 5. And we didn't know why. They were always giving me sinus infections until I had to get a PICC line. And then the x-ray technician decided to send something over to the pulmonary team because obviously he saw my lungs. And from there, they talked to my mom. My mom actually knew what was going on. She's like, wait, you're telling me he has that? That's a terrible impression of my mother. And so we got that. They did my test, my sweat test and everything. And, well, here I am with CF. And then I just kind of went into immediate decline. This is about 8th grade, I want to say. So it kind of hit me. My psychological made me like less fit. Just I didn't want to do. I don't know. I can't exactly how it works, but my body just started to not work as the way it should. Even though it was just someone telling me it, it's not like anything physically happened. High school got a little better. I ended up joining marching band. I would do PICC lines. Like my mom would come in. I would do like IVs like in the school, which is not the most fun thing. And then like the thing that kind of turned my life around was college, I'd say. That and so my parents started the CF Walkathon when I was 13. At 19, due to family drama, I'm not going to talk about that. My mom handed the control of my team to Team Keith for the CF Walk to me. And that gave me freedom to actually, in my way, physically fight it. Like, it felt more like I was punching it, like a punching bag would, instead of like just kind of living with it. And also college just gave me the freedom. And really, it's come down to just now, like, I'm in my own place after I'm 32, and it took me 14 years to finally get my own place, get a full-time job. So, like, this is kind of why we ended up on this topic for me, because I didn't let my CF be an excuse, or honestly, it kind of motivated me to get through college and do things. And well, that's kind of my story. We can go more into detail through the questions. Dave, are you ready to give your side of the story here?
Okay, thanks, Keith. Appreciate you sharing that with us. And yeah, we just to continue in that vein. To introduce myself, my name is David Hansen. I'm a father of two daughters with cystic fibrosis. My oldest is 20. Well, I guess I shouldn't call her a girl anymore. She's a woman. And I have a 14-year-old. And they're both doing pretty well in their health, and so we're thankful for that. And yeah, so CF has definitely been a central part of our family, where both daughters had CF. Just thinking about motivation and thinking about what I would say for this. Look back over the girls' lives. My oldest was diagnosed at 2.5, and so those first 2.5 years, she struggled quite a bit. We didn't understand why she was ravenously hungry all the time, and it's because her body wasn't getting the nutrients that she needed. She was basically starving for the first 2.5 years. So it's been a lot, and you just learn to work with it, right? As I thought back about how we worked with my daughters, CF really was a big challenge, and it really wasn't our main motivation. And in fact, motivating my daughters to do CF treatments was, we tried every angle we could, and it was, basically it was a disaster. The more we tried, the harder we pushed, the worse it got. And it just, and it didn't matter the angle that we took, and it felt like, the more that we tried to instill in them that, these were treatments to help them not be sick, that really the message they got was that we're sick and that we're going to die young. And so that was difficult. Later, my oldest daughter, she's like, yeah, I stopped planning for stuff because that's all I heard from you was, adding more tomorrows today. Well, that just means I had less tomorrows. So why worry about it? And, she's in good health now, and hopefully she's going to live a long life. But, that focus on the mortality piece as a motivator to try to get them to do their treatments was just backfired, frankly. So if the things that did work was just living life, and having motivation for life, and just working around CF. So, motivation to go play soccer, to be on the dance team, to play basketball, to be active, do gymnastics. Those were the things that were really motivating, and we didn't worry about so much the treatments, except just to do them when we could and live life as much as we could. And I think if I had to do it over again, I think that's what I would really focus on, is just making CF just a thing that you do. But also, if these things just kind of play themselves out. Our girls were pretty healthy. It's difficult to motivate someone to do something when there's no visible, tangible benefit. They're like, why am I doing these vest treatments? Because I feel fine. That's a tough sell. So, pick your battles, I guess is my point. So, and my message is, it's okay to not be motivated by CF. It's okay if you never raise money for CF, or you never go to Great Strides or anything. And it's okay if you just live your life and manage your CF the way it works, because that's the important part. Happiness, joy, living, and not fussing about treatments all the time is what worked for us. So anyway, so that's my story. Thanks for letting me share it. I will turn it over to Jill to share hers.
Thanks, David. Hi, everyone. My name is Jill Hile, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I'm coming to you from Columbus, Ohio. I'd like to thank of the CF Foundation for arranging this around the Buckeye game that just ended so that I could quickly get onto this call. So yes, I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and I have two daughters. They're twins. One has CF. Her name is Allison, and the other is a non-carrier, non-CF. Her name is Abigail. They are 21, almost 22 years old and seniors at the University of Dayton in Dayton, Ohio. Allison is studying early childhood education, and Abigail is studying political science. Our CF story started the day after, well, actually the middle of the night, I guess, after the girls were born. Allison had meconium ileus, as many people with CF have, at birth, was discovered and was transported over to Nationwide Children's Hospital, where she underwent a bowel resection when she was about 24 hours old. She did really, really well, if you can imagine that. She had a reconnection surgery pretty quickly, about 3 weeks actually after her initial surgery, but did spend about 116 days at the hospital when she was born. So I had a twin at home and I had a twin across town. Luckily, we were in a city with a stellar CF care center and stellar Children's Hospital, so that we did not have to leave what we would call our safety net zone. And I will tell you, the girl's story is Allison had all the ups and downs that come with CF. When she was about 8, I think it was, she had a lobectomy and had the middle right lobe of her lungs removed. Disease progression. Honestly, it was not looking good on the scans, and the doctors felt her age and her health at the time was ripe for the surgery. So we went through that surgery. Obviously, countless PICC lines, sinus infection or sinus surgeries, on and off. You know, Allison is she is a hilarious young woman. Now I can call her a woman. At the time, a hilarious little girl. We call many of the things she says in life Allisonisms. She makes up words when she can't pronounce something. It's quite humorous. We have all kinds of words for CF medications and treatments and things like that along the way. But the one thing I'll talk about before I pass it on is when Allison was in high school, she was really sick. I mean, like really sick. Her lung function was dropped below into the 60s. For her, that was significantly low. She was never on the growth chart ever. So she was, a high school senior or junior maybe at the time, and was clocking in about 82 pounds. She's a dancer, competitive dancer. She was losing strength in dance. She was injury prone a little bit because she was just not doing well. We were late admit into the Trikafta study. I mean, she was on prior modulator medications and they did okay for her, but there wasn't any real grand change. And she was a late admit into the Trikafta study when she was a senior in high school. And I could not believe, we didn't know, of course, it was a blind study, but I will tell you within 24 hours, we knew she was on drug. The purge is real. I mean, many of you, I'm sure on this call, your family members, friends have gone through this. But I'll never forget the moment where she walked in and she plopped herself down on the couch next to me and she said, "Whatever the heck has been stepping on my chest for the last 17 years just stepped off. I never knew what y'all meant when you said breathe easy, because something feels different to me." And that was a really pivotal moment for us. I mean, as her parents, we didn't, we could never get it, right? We never understood what it was like to be someone with CF and breathe. We could do all the tricks, but it wasn't quite right. And then her twin had a very different CF journey. Abby we'll get into this in the questions in the panel, but I have so many things I would do differently with my non-CF child. The biggest thing I'll tell you is her story with CF was that she came to us when she was 12 years old and said, "Hey, I read about this thing called Teen Advocacy Day. I want to do that." And so we reached, I'm on the board of the local CF chapter here, and we reached out, we said, how do we do this? And the next summer she went every summer after that, and then became a TAD summer intern. Unfortunately, it was the year of COVID. So her dream of her summer in DC did not pan out, but she did that from this very room where I'm sitting, actually, is where she did her internship. And that has changed her life. She is now studying political science and plans to go into nonprofit advocacy, healthcare, basically working for others. And that is her CF story. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we get into the questions. But I will pass it over to Raeshaun so she can tell you a little bit about herself.
Thanks, Jill. Hey, everyone. So my name is Raeshaun Jones. I'm 28 years old with CF. So I was diagnosed with CF at about 3 months old. Initially, they didn't know what it was, obviously, but they tested me for things like sickle cell. Everything came back negative. So CF was the last thing that I was tested for. So I've had CF pretty much my whole life. I'm the oldest of 5, and I'm a twin as well, but my twin brother, he doesn't have CF, so lucky him, he didn't get that gene. So growing up, CF was really just a part of my life. I still went to school. I engaged in all of the normal activities, just like everyone else around me. There were times that I felt a little bit different from like the other kids because, I would have to go in the house a little bit earlier to take my treatments and do everything before bed, whereas a lot of my peers were still outside playing and things of that sort. So that was a little different. And then I obviously spent a lot of time in and out of the hospital. I had to set aside a lot of time for my medical responsibilities. So it felt a little strange, even though I lived a pretty normal life, but that side of life is what felt weird. I didn't realize it until I got an adult that it bothered me or that it looked strange. I didn't even really realize I was that sick growing up because it was just the norm. It wasn't until, like Jill said, with her daughter, when I started Trikafta, I felt so much better. I didn't realize that I was as sick as I was until after I was able to, start Trikafta as an adult. But other than that, I lived, I would say, a pretty normal life. My mom, she just always pushed me to pretty much show up as the best version of myself. She didn't really allow me to use CF as an excuse to not do good in school or just not show up as the best version of me. Like I said, CF was a part of my life, but it wasn't something that I was able to use as an excuse to not do what my other siblings was doing, like chores and showing up at school and things of that sort. So as I got older, I knew that I wanted to be able to, learn life for myself and make a good life for myself. My mom pretty much told me how to live, which would allow me to live a better life. But once I went off to college, it allowed me to pretty much learn myself with CF away from my mom telling me, you need to take your treatments, you need to take your enzymes. I have type 1 diabetes as well. You need to count your carbs. You need to take your insulin. I got to go off to college and pretty much get really sick and learn that, okay, this is why, my mom was telling me that I need to do all of these things. So it took me a while to learn that. But as I grew into an adult, like I said, I was able to go off to college, get my bachelor's, go on, study to get my master's now. And then I will say that having a therapist as an adult has been really major in transforming my life. It's allowed me to be able to talk about growing up with CF, have somebody to pretty much hear me out and help me to pretty much become the woman that I am now. And I think therapy is great for anybody, especially with us having CF, because your mental health and your physical health really plays a big part. And I don't think that it's talked about enough. So I think that's very important. So as I got older, I started my brand, Spiritually Breathing, and it just allows me to advocate, for CF, but also to spread awareness for Black people with CF, because having CF growing up, it wasn't really taken that seriously in my community because not a lot of Black people know about CF, to be honest. Since I've started posting and stuff, people that I went to high school with will comment and say, oh, now that makes sense to why you missed class and things of that sort. But not a lot of people knew about it. So starting my brand has just allowed me to pretty much spread awareness. and educate a lot of people who aren't familiar with CF. But I don't think that CF really stopped me from living a pretty good life and a pretty normal life. I think it just added a little more tough skin to me and allowed me to be able to face some challenges as an adult with CF because it was a learning curve going up. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all that I have. So, Keith, I'm going to pass it back over to you.
All right, thank you, Raeshaun. Okay, so now we're going to move into the Q&A. I will be watching the chat. If you guys we've got some pre-written ones, so you got plenty of time to think up your questions in the audience out there. So we'll be starting with Jill. How did the CF diagnosis affect you and your family as a whole?
Sure, thanks for the question. You know, when Allison's CF diagnosis came in, obviously I was still in the hospital recovering from my C-section. Now, we didn't have the final diagnosis, but they suspected it. And as with anything in my family, and I'm talking about just not just my husband and my, obviously at the time, infant daughters, but my extended family, my siblings, my parents, my husband's siblings and his parents. We're a very curious family. Anyone that knows me knows that I ask about 1,000,001 questions on just about every topic. And so that's exactly what happened with us is we got curious and we learned as quickly as we could every single thing that we thought we could learn about CF, that we could learn on the internet or from doctors or from nurses or whoever. But, you know, it wasn't until we got into it that we really understood from a parent perspective what that was going to be like. You know, one of the things that I'll say about my daughter, Allison, is CF is like a tiny part of the story she tells about herself. And I actually admire that young lady more than you know. When she was younger, we made CF a lot about our everyday life. We had to learn new treatment schedules every time we would go to clinic and something would change. We had to carry enzymes with us. We had, you know, all the things, right? And I had a child that wouldn't swallow a pill till she was 9 years old. So I had applesauce with me every place I went, right? Because she had to and she did too. But she is just a pretty exceptional child or young woman in the way that she handled her CF. She decided that she was a friend, a sister, a daughter, a dancer, an aspiring teacher. Oh yeah, and I have CF. She describes it, and I'm not trying to diminish the incredible impact that CF has on people's lives, but she would describe it as, you know, when you like break your little pinky toe and there's really nothing you can do about it. You just kind of have to live with it. And it's super annoying for a while. That's how she treated her CF. I have to live with it. I have to do these things. And yes, she rebelled on treatments and all of those things. But it was more about this thing that she had to live with, that she would be damned if that was going to be her story. And I, at the time, didn't see how that was such a positive thing. I thought she's in denial. She's not really focusing on this. She's, you know, diminishing all this, what these treatments will do. And really what she was doing was forming her own personality, her life. And I'm so glad that she is who she is and was able to do that. I'll use the example of in high school and elementary school and growing up, we did a lot of the determining of who knew about CF, right? We told the people that needed to know. She gets to college, she was in control. I think she went her whole first semester before anybody other than her sister knew that she had CF. And she slowly started telling people. But then COVID hit her freshman year. And so game changer, right? She had to start telling everybody everything because it became a big deal for her to be safe, and she got scared. And you know, she'll tell you that was a humbling time for her as someone with CF. But I think we did as a family more learning from her about how to handle CF the right, well, is there ever a right way, right? Our way, our family's way, because everyone's CF is different. We learned a lot from her. And we really let her drive things. Even when she was younger, we didn't even realize that she was taking the lead on how our family was going to treat CF. You know, I make light of her funny names of things, but they were all part of her coping. And I can't agree with Raeshaun enough about therapy. My non-CF child has been in therapy for years. Just to really cope with the guilt that I think she had of why she's so healthy and why she's thriving. And she watched what, you know, many times in her life was watching her sister wither away. I'm in therapy. We talk with our clinic, with our social work family and our child life, I don't know what they're called, I'm sorry, my names are escaping me, specialists. We talk with them very openly. With our family, we talk very openly. We check in on each other. And I think those are the ways that our family has kind of dealt with it. It's just kind of there, right? Like, you know, you've got to change your air filters and you've got to do your CF treatments and you have to pay the bills and you have to, you know, but obviously there are moments when CF hits a square in the face and you get a little reality check. And then you just remember all the things that we learned from the one dealing with it, and you kind of take your lead from her.
Yeah, I think that is about right. My family, like my grandmother started like, she's so sweet. She's like, oh my God, did I give it to him? It was, you know, like family takes on things, you know, and it's like, I don't know, like it affects them, but I want to say more, but we're going to get into a question that actually affects it. Even that probably goes more into it. So we're going to move on to the next one is how do you keep moving with CF in your life? Obviously, this is for me and Raeshaun. If you, Raeshaun, you want to start or should I?
I can start.
Okay.
So I think that I pretty much keep moving honestly by remembering how sick I was before Trikafta. You know, since I've started Trikafta, it's given me so much life. And it's allowed me to experience things that I once thought was a dream, like traveling and having a career and living on my own and just overall having better health. Um, so yeah, I think it would just be to not live in the moment of how sick I used to be, but just having that as, you know, something to look back on and be like, man, I'm super happy for where I'm at now and how much better health I'm in now and how I'm able to experience a lot of different things. I know it probably sounds really simply put, but yeah, that's my answer. Keith, we can't hear you.
Sorry, I was muted. Um, I kind of go one thing at a time personally. Um, you know, like it's a lot to affect to really take everything as a whole. So try to do like one thing at a time. You know, I learned that working the pizza place, honestly. Like one pizza at a time, you'll get there eventually. I know it sounds silly to say that, but it does move on to the other things in your life. Just try to do everything you can. Make a list if you have to. Go down that list. I personally don't like lists, but if it helps you, go for it. But that's kind of how I move on with my CF. And just like Raeshaun, I don't feel like it's an excuse, and I don't want to be CF. It's not my identity. So we got a question for the parents here. How do you keep positivity in your household or your support system? We'll start with David on this one, or Raeshaun. I'm sorry, I can't talk.
Are you starting with myself, Keith?
Yeah.
Okay. So honestly, I just try to keep my circle up to date on anything that's going on with my health. Even if I'm not feeling good, and that could really be physically or mentally, because you know, like we talked about mental health. So I pretty much just try to communicate exactly what's going on, as well as how I may need them to show up for me. So you know, I think being younger and having my mom really care for me a lot. As I got older, I wanted to be more independent. So now I'm learning how to ask for help. So yeah, I just pretty much try to communicate my needs and what's going on with my health. And yeah, that's how I remain positive.
Keith, did you want me to jump in on this one too?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, you know, positivity in CF obviously is difficult at times. I've already talked about, Allison and her sense of humor, and, she talks about all the icky parts of CF with a really funny twist and wit to it. But one of the things that really helped in our family was getting involved in advocacy. I mentioned that Abby came to us about wanting to be involved in Teen Advocacy Day. And, it only took one time, maybe the first hour we were there, for us to be hooked. We had done for, at this time, I think the girls were 13. We had been fundraising for 13 years, and, we were, we understand the importance of it. We wouldn't have things like Trikafta without it, but we were feeling a little bit, worn out on the fundraising side of things, and advocacy really lit a fire in our entire family. From there, I was able to attend March on the Hill a couple times. But advocacy and watching my non-CF child really go feet first in and learn and understand that side of the disease and how important healthcare, pre-existing conditions, access to affordable healthcare for all, right? And listening to her and watching her mold these ideas and thoughts. And then it extended far beyond CF. I mean, she came to us one time all fired up, a couple years ago with a lot of the social unrest we were dealing with in our society, and said, I don't think your zip code should determine your future, and I'm going to do something about that. And I'm like, where did this come from? And she's right, but I think a lot of it has to do with those early days of being someone in a CF family who has a twin sister who they are very close. They've never lived apart. They are roommates in college. I don't know what's going to happen when they graduate this spring. And watch her deal with that guilt in such a positive way that I almost don't want to call it guilt. It was more, yes, she had a lot of anxiety. She had a lot of feelings. But watching her embrace advocacy and infuse that into our family about, did you know this? And did you know this? And we got to fight for this. And it really got all of us really rejuvenated in a really positive way about how we can support Allison and everyone with CF, right? Until it's done. We're not just talking about those that can take Trikafta. We're talking about everybody here. And so I think that was a really positive thing in our family, that we could all wrap our heads around. Allison, who has CF, is not an in-your-face, wear CF like a badge. She's not going to go and talk to 100 people on a call like this about CF, but she will talk one-on-one with new families that are diagnosed. She will talk one-on-one virtually with young teenagers with CF and their anxieties about going to college. She's a much quieter, despite her extrovert being such a crazy extrovert. She doesn't want to get in front on a stage. Her sister wanted to go and get in front of the people that could change the world, right? And so it was kind of really interesting to watch the two of them, all very positive. And we kind of just let them go and let them do it, as long as they were safe and kind of doing it the right approach under the great guidance from the CF Foundation. So that was really a big positive spin at about that time when kids were starting to rebel with CF and things like that those early teen years.
You're on mute, Keith.
I need to remember which mute button I'm using. I think it is important that you talk about not being on Trikafta, because I'm not, due to I'm not going to say my mutation, because I cannot say my mutation. It's not compatible. So it's actually really good that you said that. I think we lost Dave, so I'm going to skip one question, give him some time to maybe come back. We'll see what happens. So we're going to go in a weird order.
Did we get him back?
Oh, we got him back. That works. Perfect timing. This one's going to be for the parents. Actually, this one is for the parents. I'm actually reading things correctly this time. As your kids transition into adulthood, what have you learned about your parenting experience? What you think you might have done wrong or right. Dave, you want to take that?
Sure. Well, there's a giant list of things I would do differently, but I'll start with that message, is that there's no guidebook to this. There's no, nobody knows how to do this. You're just doing your best, and that's all you can do. I'm also going to give a big shout out to therapy and add my concurrence with that. I think one of the biggest things we can do as CF parents is to heal ourselves, whatever that looks like. It doesn't matter whether you have CF kid or not, but definitely having CF children requires some emotional resiliency. And if you've got other stuff going on, CF is just going to compound whatever else is going on. So healing yourself, getting yourself into therapy, being honest with yourself is big. The other thing is, I think there's a lot of emphasis that's put on, transitioning kids into adulthood and making sure they know their medications and can do their own prescriptions and all this kind of stuff, right? And that they can speak to their doctor, and that's fine. And that's right. But I think the other piece is preparing them emotionally for adulthood as well. Again, on the on the mental health side, that they need to understand, they need to be able to have their emotional independence around CF, and that's going to look different for every kid. But if it's something that you can keep in mind, that I think that's a big help. And so for our family, what that looked like was, again, I think we come across with this message of, do your treatments and do all this stuff and live as long as you possibly can, and in a backwards way, we're kind of taking the choice of life away from our kids. And what I mean by that is, when the message is you have to live as long as possible at any cost, do all your treatments, take all the medications, and that motivation should come from themselves to live and to take their medications and and be healthy. And I mean, that's just, like Raeshaun said, my daughter did the same thing. She went to college. She had to get a little sick before she really picked up and like, okay, this is something I do for myself. But that, that message of, live as long as possible, no matter what, I think it's just, I know our hearts are in the right place as parents, but it's something to consider what our kids hear when they hear that. And, and just let them be honest and open with you about their life and what it's like to live, what it's like to live it, and whether they want to live it, frankly. And I know that's not a fun topic, but that's their choice. And when we shove it down their throat, I think we're doing them a disservice. So anyways, that's my thoughts.
I would just add, one of the things that was really interesting to us as she was starting to transition from the pediatric clinic to the adult clinic, were so many of the things that they wanted her to start doing for herself. And we had a moment where my husband and I looked at each other and we're like, no. We're asking her to do things that we're not asking our non-CF kid to do. I'm not asking her to understand her insurance at 19 years old or 20 years old. I'm not doing that. They're in college. They're going to let them be college kids. And when they get out of college, we'll teach them about what they need to know about their medical insurance. When they get their first job, and we sit down with their benefits package and we'll help them out. I understand that not everybody might have involved parents like we are to do that. But one of the things that we did a timeout with our CF clinic and said, this plan isn't going to work for this family. Here's what we're going to do. Yes, she needs to know how to call in her own prescriptions. I expect both kids to do that in college. They need to know how to deal with the pharmacy. They need to, talk to their doctors and have those calls. But, to learn, we really quickly said anything that we're not going to ask the other one to do, or that I didn't do in college, I'm not asking her to do. And it was, once we did that, Allison was like, okay, I can do this. These days, they don't even want to call and order a pizza, right? They do it online, right? They don't want to call anybody. Well, they can do their prescriptions online too, right? And then she's making those decisions. So we really took let her kind of take the lead for the most part, except for those moments where I thought, I don't agree with this plan, and I am the parent still. And so, you know, we did jump in on a few of those things in the last couple years. I mean, Allison still wants us to go to clinic with her. We every time say, do you want to do this by yourself? Or, you know, or she'll call us now and say, hey, I'm coming home for clinic. Are you free? And, you know, and then we'll get there. And a lot of it is around, unfortunately, where our children's hospital is. It's all tore up, major construction, roads are closed. She's like, I'm not driving down there, you know? So that was been her excuse, I think, maybe a little bit, but we'll get there and I'll be like, I'll just sit in the lobby. And she's like, no, come on up. And so, you know, we're starting to talk to her a little bit about that, because I might not always be available to go to clinic with her. But if she wants me there, nobody's going to stop me from being there. Sorry. You know, but we are letting her make those choices. I don't automatically assume I will be there. But sometimes she'll do when she was part of the study, she had to do these phone calls and things, and she would do all those without us. But I think you got to know your kid and your family and what works. I saw Dave nodding a little bit on some of that. I mean, when I was 21 and in college, I didn't understand my health insurance. I knew I had it. I knew it was important. She knows to take the card with her if she goes to the doctor, you know, those things that we would expect any college student to know. But it's not fair to put more on them, in my opinion. I mean, I might have people that don't agree with me, and that's perfectly fine. I know, quite frankly, I don't think our clinic agreed with me on some of that. But I thought it was really important for her to be as much of a typical college kid as we could let her be, given her situation. So that for what it's worth.
Yeah, and if I may just really quickly, I completely agree. I think to the summary message I want to just say is, we are all experts on our lives, and your kids are the experts on their lives, and Raeshaun and Keith, we're all experts on our lives, and we should be able to say, thank you for that, thank you for that direction, but I'm going to do what's right for me. That should just be okay across the board all the time.
Thank you for that, both of you. I actually resonate with a couple of things you said there. But now I kind of want to focus on the opposite side here. As patients with CF, what can you give tips for parents? And I think I'll start off on this one, since I've been greedy and giving it to everybody else first. I was actually watching the last one. This came in, I was watching it, and they were talking about like enzymes and like just eat a snack. I can tell you, there's nothing more saying I don't to make your kid not eat something than to say go take 2 pills because you want to eat a cookie. So I mean, I don't know how you get around that, but you know, I mean, my parents, they love me, but they're really trying, and maybe you just have to realize that a kid's got to be a kid. You know, it's not just enzymes; it's many things. Like, one, they should start learning their lessons. Like, if they get little stomach issues because they didn't take their enzymes, then they should learn from that. Not that you shouldn't guide them in any way, but like if you're gonna eat a cookie, like 1 cookie or something like that, I'm gonna say, like, if it's something very little, let it go. Like, you got to let a kid be a kid, and you have to realize there's a psychological effect to making somebody do something when it doesn't. It has such a tiny minor effect. I guess that'd be my biggest thing. Raeshaun, if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, so I think for me, I would just say to just more so listen to your child's needs, like ask them how they're feeling or what they need, and listen to what they say, opposed to just kind of forcing, your opinions. And of course, as parents, like I'll speak for my mom. Of course, she knew in terms of CF what was best for me before I even really knew what CF was, because I was too young to really understand. But I think it's just important to, allow your child to communicate like, hey, mom, can I take my treatment in the morning instead of at night? Or, whatever the case may be. Because, now with me being older, yeah, I get it now. But as a kid, it's just, you're not mature enough to grasp certain things. And, you kind of look at your parent as being annoying or nagging or whatever. So I would just say more so just asking your kids like, hey, like, how do you feel? What do you need? What can I do to make this easier? Because as an adult now I see it, but as a kid I didn't really get it. It just was like, oh, this is annoying. I gotta take these enzymes, I gotta take this treatment, I gotta do this chest PT. It was just very annoying. And I think it just takes a little bit of patience. So yeah, that's my input.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I can probably agree with that as well. Jill, this one's for you. How has CF affected your children that don't have CF specifically?
Sure. This is one that I'm really glad we were going to talk about because I have a lot of passion around, we're a family that tries to always live without regret, but there's a few things that I would say that I look back on now with my non-CF child that I really regret that we didn't have. Hindsight's 2020, right? So you can go back and look. And so the one thing is I always want to share what I've learned about that so that others maybe can take this and use it or not for their families. But, before Abby became this amazing young woman who stands up for herself and stands up for others and speaks out, she's a pretty shy little girl. She's an introvert. She's super quiet. And she tells stories. Now, her memories, of course, and our memories are all a little bit different on how this actually went down. But these are her stories that she tells about growing up with a sibling with CF. And she'll talk about being forgotten, or it was always, I look back and I say these were clinic days that these things occurred. And she's right, they happened, where we would forget to pick her up from swim lessons because we were still at clinic. Or we would get home and she was old enough to be home by herself, but we maybe didn't think about dinner and we're still at clinic downtown and she's in the dark now. It's gotten dark outside. Haven't made her dinner, haven't helped her with her homework. And we come home and she's been by herself since after school. Or, when her sister would be in the hospital, we never thought about making arrangements to make sure she got to be with her twin sister at the hospital. And she tells these stories in a way that just break my heart. I mean, I know she's not mad at me. We've talked about all of this now that she's a young woman, but those are the things that I think fed into and shaped some of her anxiety that she has, some of the feelings that she had. I remember a time saying, well, I wish maybe I had CF and I'd get to spend more time with you. And those things, cut you to the core. And, we talk about it now and she's like, when I was younger, you probably would make people think you did this all the time. It was like 3 times, right, that these stories happened. But, we have a phrase we use in our family when we've got a lot going on about what do we need to have squared away. And that was one place that I didn't have squared away, was when she was a little bit younger. And when Allison was so sick, I needed to make sure, my husband and I both needed to make sure we had Abby squared away. That, we had made, there's a million of our friends would have had her to dinner. She could have come to clinic with us. We started bringing her once we realized the impact, so she could be a part of it and hear what the doctors were saying, especially when they would be home by themselves or out with friends. And Allison would do exactly what Keith described as, it's just a hot fudge sundae. It's fine. I forgot my Zymers at home. And she'd be on her case, or we wouldn't be home and she'd be skipping treatments. Abby was the first one to rat her out to us. But it wasn't until we started including her as an equal member of this family. All of us get a vote. And we weren't accounting for her vote in the decision. And as soon as we started bringing her in and she was a part of the care team on a regular basis, we started seeing a change. And so that is just a topic I'm pretty passionate about, is your non-CF kids, really including them. Abby we taught her how to wash the treatment cups. We used to laugh together. We used to have to mix up this really disgusting protein stuff that when she had a feeding tube we would use, and we would have fun with that. Or we blew out another blender. I mean, I think we went through 20 blenders growing up with the kids, or whatever, but including her in counting out enzymes or things like that. And all of a sudden it became, I don't know, she felt more included. She felt just more a part of the decision making. And now that they're in college, I mean, she picks up on that's a CF cough. That's not just I've got something caught in my throat cough. Or, those of you that have, even those of you with CF, Raeshaun and Keith, you probably know the look you get in your eyes when you're getting an infection coming on. She can see that in her sister's eyes before, and then they.
All right, Jill, do you mind if I intrude? We've got like 5 minutes,
good.
And we got
that's good.
2 more questions. We're going to try and rush out, and then we'll conclude for the next one. So I'm going to go after this next one, which is how has it affected our siblings? Like, you kind of talked about a little bit how it was. So I have twin sisters. Everybody here has twins, by the way. Welcome to the twin CF group. Basically, I also have autism, and it's the problem. And my younger sisters, they didn't like that I got so much attention, between my CF and my autism. It really didn't help, and I don't think they fully understood why, because they were kids. And they felt like I was a favorite. So that really, I don't know how that can be fixed in a family or not. I'm not a psychologist, but that's my biggest issue. Raeshaun, do you just want to answer the next one, or do you want to answer this one?
Yeah, I can answer it. So the question that Keith is referring to is there anything that I thought I wouldn't be able to do with CF that I did? I don't necessarily think there was anything that I thought I couldn't do. It was just more so me not knowing how that would look. Like I said, having CF and my mom kind of guiding me my entire life. Once I was able to branch out on my own and go to school and learn some lessons, I was able to, figure out what time of the day worked for me to take my medications, things like getting exercise, pertaining to my mental health, journaling, going to therapy. So I don't think there was anything I necessarily thought I couldn't do, because my mom always reassured me that I can do whatever I put my mind to. But it was just more so once I got into it, like going off to school, learning how to take my treatments on my own, what time of day works best for me. So never thought I couldn't do anything. It was just a matter of how that would look for me, not having my mom pretty much guide me.
Thank you. And to be clear, my sisters, now that they're older, they understand everything. They help me with my CF stuff, and they understand everything now. But we are pretty much out of time here. It's almost right at the buzzer here. So there's a few things. There's going to be a satisfaction poll on the poll tab. If it's already up or not, I'm not sure. They can probably let me know. I do want to thank everybody, including David, who had to run off for family something or other. So we were aware of him leaving. And really the thing we wanted you to take from this is really, don't let the CF be you. Let the CF inspire you, or just get over it. One of the two, as we saw with David. They didn't use it as inspiration. I did. It seems like Raeshaun did very well. And I think Jill did, from what I saw. If not, but everybody's different. So that's kind of what we want to say here. And really just kind of out of questions anyway. So the next one will be, actually, I don't know what the next one is off the top of my head. Actually, it's a closing keynote. We'll hear the stories about that demonstrates CF is not one disease. And that'll be the next one. Thank you, everyone who's here or not here. And I guess that'll be it. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.